Yo, yo. What's going on? I got cut off a bit prematurely last evening. We had a little rainstorm, and I was connected to the wrong Wi Fi network. So, my bad. I hopped on the IU broadcast this morning. Some nice plans off open. Basically, kind of the thought process that we went through yesterday on the nightly scan about narrowing focus and finding edge through ticker selection. I typically don't trade day one gappers, but staff was different. This I don't really consider a day one gapper because it's gapping straight up into daily overhead resistance with higher volume from what it was tracking on in the morning. So 460 was that daily high, and then the 14s, I believe. Oh, 340. Why did I think 14s? I don't know. So 340 was the base and 460 was the top from that high volume day. So plan on broadcast was a squeeze and blowout through it. The first test of it went right back through, blowout through high a day, run stops. And then once you get the break of this prior bar low at 430, you get a retest of 460 and then never sees higher. So nice opportunity there. Oklo, I was looking for that short trade. Plan for an A plus was a gap up, gap and go, and then lean into failed fall through momentum. And right off the open, this thing just went straight down. So I wasn't going to chase it, given that I wanted an 18 shove, and this thing opened flat and then went straight down, which is what it's been doing every morning. And that flush was met with steady buying. So the route I took with it was a buy of prior 2-minute bar highs, risking the prior bar lows, and then I just locked that into VWAP. I didn't try to short it. I figured this was going to grind back, which I was wrong in that front, but the little dip buy worked. Small little single. So no real plans on that one. Now it's kind of reset its move, so it's not super extended anymore. Possibly a breakout down the line if it can go sideways for a few days and break through the daily bar highs. But I'll just set price alerts on that sector and then not really do much with it. These big picture dailies on the China names, Baba, Futu, PDD, Baidu, etc., etc. They went on that big run when I was looking for a mean reversion on the way up, and now it seems like they've pulled in a bit far. So I think there could be a mean reversion on the backside playing the other way. Like this one down here in the 90s has room back to 100-ish. Same kind of thing with Futu. Room back to 100-ish. Baba. I think PDD looks fairly clean back to 130s. Neo. XPEV. LI doing the same kind of thing. Neo looks the cleanest coming into prior daily support. If this breaks prior day's lows, I'd like to see it get bought up quick. But dips versus that 480 to 5 range, and then possible mean revert back towards 6. If the China basket wants to bounce and mean revert on the backside, I think there is opportunity there. DJT and Fun. I've been waiting for a bit more information on these names, and I think I've got it. Enough for me to be confident enough to place a trade. So we've got these daily wicks coming in each day, and it gets bought up into close. As you can see, the bigger picture trend and thesis being that run into November, into the election. Not my election, your election. But if this breaks and builds over 3150s and these wicks keep coming in, I could see this going a lot higher. And then fun, you got this daily candle here right around 8, and it keeps going. So a breakthrough 8, big picture, looks like it wants higher. So those two sympathies, I'd be a lot more long bias at this point with the fundamental thesis and now the technicals aligning. Stack, ATNF, and VS were the quiet fader ideas. Once you survived the opening chop there, were nice quiet ideas down to lows into 11, 12 a.m. So no real plans on those going forward, but decent little single opportunities. PRQR, I just have this one on watch with no plan, just because week opens keep getting absorbed and the daily keeps going higher. So no real plan on something like that, but just noting because it's a percent gainer. VSME, I still like the looks of this. Daily chart wise, up from 70s up to 350s this morning, which now gives it that multi-day run look. And with the volume staying fairly consistent today, once we zoom out and look left, we had that big blowout there after hours, and then to 4 a.m. went even higher. So I think that was the last hurrah for shorts to get popped. So I would be interested in all pops on this into prior day's resistance for a fade back to where it came from. This thing's getting delisted. Tomorrow will be OTC. Drug. Didn't touch on that one, but this 21 has now been key for 3 days. And this daily chart tapping on it twice in a row. So if this breaks and builds below 21, I'd be interested in joining that trend for a fade. All in all, it is still extended. It's up from $1, and it's still consolidating at 20s. But if if we can get a flat open tomorrow, a pullback in 21 hold, and get something, I wonder if I can draw it today, like this, get like a pullback to 21, and then get a push, a pullback, over under 21 hold, a rebreak. A plus would be like a retest, and then continue through highs. This would be the kind of intraday structure. ALPP back to OTC. I remember making some money on it back then. Yeah, I remember trading it when it was OTC. I didn't even realize it was listed, but yeah, it hit the daily list today. Going back OTC. But yeah, something like this on drug with this being 21. So if it were to pull back, hold, set a lower high, and test and hold low a day over under, break this lower high for a possible starter. A plus would be a double top off highs, a retest of this lower high, and then a break where you could add into lows with full risk on low a day, scale through the highs, and moving risk up here would be a nice little pyramid. But something like that anyways, that kind of structure off of 21s. And if it breaks below 21, then there's not really any support in sight until 10, so that'll be a key level for me to watch tomorrow. None of the usuals in here today. If you got anything for me to touch on, have at it. I've kind of gone through my plans and trades from today right at the start. Q, what's up? How's it going? My man Chris. But yeah, if you got anything to touch on today, any tickers you think I might be interested in, could use some help for some watches tomorrow. Looks a bit light out there for me. Probably VSME, Neo, Drug, DJT, Fun. A bunch of like if watches, but not really like A+ dailies. This sector was kind of like typically what happens is you get the I took a fat loss on Drug. Happens. It happens. But you're still here, so it's all good. Most people give up. I made most of it back on VS. Gotcha. Nice. I found this sector a bit weird. Typically what happens is you get something like Drug that goes nuts. And then you get something that wants to ride its coattails, and retail basically calls it the next Drug. And they usually run in lockstep. The sympathy doesn't go as far. Drug went to 60. Maybe the next one goes to 30. But then you start getting PRs of companies being pharma names, biotechs. And then maybe they, run into 2 p.m. and then fade into close. And then you start getting ones that run off the open and then fade the rest of the day. And then you start getting ones that pop in pre-market and never see higher. And the time frame on which they run and the prices at which they go to just slowly starts to diminish. And what happened on these is Drug went to 60, and then everything yesterday pushed off the open, squeezed everybody out into 9:45, 10 a.m., and then faded to lows. And then today you got the not much squeeze, basically steady lows off the open, and every gapper worked. So it seems like shorts are timid, and so there's no one left to squeeze, but just seems a bit weird that longs were in such control where these names could be hitting 300-400% in pre-market and not going much higher. Seems a bit out of the ordinary, but it doesn't have to make sense. It's just typically what happens, and I feel like I have a lot more edge in those situations. But do you have a take on SMCI for a possible multi-day breakout after a massive sell-off and basing at the bottom? I did see that little double top off of it today. It pushed into looking left levels and failed. Right there. But I think if you zoom in, kind of like we went over on like Apple and Nvidia and whatnot, if you zoom in here, I think the daily looks good. And then as soon as you do this, I think that daily doesn't look so good anymore. If it were to be doing this structure more up here in the 99-100 range, I'd be a lot more interested. But if I'm looking to long large caps, I'd much rather be playing something like Nvidia, where when you zoom out, it looks like that. And when you zoom in, it's still consolidating right near its highs. Like something like this, if it were to break out. So SMCI, I think within like the last week, I think it looks constructive. But bigger picture wise, as soon as you zoom out, that's a no trade for me with a bunch of bag holders overhead. What's your experience being going long VWAP reclaim setups, something like MTAM or NXL? This one fundamentally is a zero. They're liquidating all of their assets and basically trying to go out of business. But let me look at NXL and then I'll go back to MTAM. VWAP reclaim, something like this, I'm assuming. My setups typically stem from the daily chart first, and this just isn't a daily that I would be looking at. I think a better VWAP reclaim setup would be TVGN from today. So if I draw you a line here off the daily highs at 145, and then I go intraday, it was gapping over its breakout level, faded below VWAP, broke low a day. This candle would have stopped out all the longs, and it consolidated, but big picture wise, this 145 is the key level. So everybody's selling under low a day because it broke. But big picture, over under 140 still held, and then once it reclaimed VWAP, it kept going. So I think it's a losing strategy, just like any, if you just look for intraday VWAP reclaims. But if you start zooming out and stem from the daily, I think that's where edge will be, and your win rate will start to see some improvement. The difference on TVGN and others like MTAB, NXL, and you could make a list of a million other ones that didn't work, even though those few work today. But if you stem it from the daily and use a top-down approach, going daily, intradaily, down to an intraday, I think there's a lot more edge. It is a setup I will trade, but I need the daily to align first. So something like this, once it kind of shakes everybody out and reclaims VWAP, I don't hate the risk reward for a 160 versus low a day risk, and let that trade work. Would be my take on that. So for longs, I'll be watching anything similar to news. Yeah, I did put that on my list from today. Obviously, it's just a percent gainer, but to me, looks like Pops verse 2 should fail. But I don't really have a bias on something like this. Like, I'd want it to look something like VSME tomorrow, where you get a big gap up. If I zoom in here off the open, you get a big gap up, prior close down here, and once you get a hard crack, lower high, and it never sees higher. So ideally, you'd get from this, where was the close on this? I think it was up here. Yeah, right around here in the twos. So ideally, you get a gap up back towards 220, and then it just never sees higher off like the opening 5 minutes. But not really a high conviction trade for me, would just be singles mentality. Higher conviction would be if this thing could start going nuts and go on a multi-day run, which we haven't really seen in a while. When stuff like drug would go on a multi-day run with increasing volume, and then an overextended gap down would actually fade. But given that this hasn't gone green in 2 days and holding its base, it'll still be a watch. News, I'll keep it on watch for a possible single into the 2 to 220 shove if it fails to follow through off those levels. Great, thanks for the take. No problem, Golan. Q, are you West Coast or East? West Coast of the Canadadas. Same here. I have a feeling that's where most of these people are from that tune into these things, because I end up doing it a bit late for the for the East Coasters. I woke up like 1 a.m. just to look for sympathy to drug. You wild, man. I ended up taking VS yesterday at 1 a.m. Let me see what that looked like. Damn. Right down there at $2. And then after open goes to 9. Jeez. It's a 4-bagger. Crazy. Not for me. I prefer to sleep. Health over wealth. But, I mean, good for you. You're hungry. Won't be doing that again. Yeah, not to say I haven't done it. Like, I remember doing that on FFIE when it was on in these days. And I was waking up each day just hoping for another gap up. And I'd put some on at 1 a.m. And I stayed on my desk from 1 a.m. right till 7, 8 a.m. Hour, 2 hours after market open. I was trading for like 6 hours before the world's awake. It was freaking wild. But it paid off, but I didn't enjoy it. The money ain't worth it. There's plenty of opportunities after the open. But I think that's about it. Yeah, I felt terrible the whole day. Yeah. Relatable. But I think that's about it. I ain't got much more to talk about. Went over a few questions, but trades from today. Watches, names in tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Look to close it out strong. I've got that bug to do more meetups since Traders for a Cause. Anyways, alrighty. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it, as always. It makes it a lot easier when you guys hop on. Did you end up meeting Lucas? I did. I went for dinner with him. We went to a Mazumi, I believe it was called. Some fancy Japanese sushi spot in the Wynn, in the casino. It was overlooking like a waterfall and a little gondola river and stuff. We racked up quite the bill. There was 8 of us there. Bunch of them were drinking sake. I don't drink, but I got to watch them drink it. It was Maya Lee was there. A few other guys that kind of keep it under wraps. Lucas was there. Yeah, there's a couple prop guys, a couple friends that I've met at prior Traders for a Cause that don't really like their name out there, but I like to keep in touch with them. Good traders. And I went up to Lucas because I never met him, never shook his hand or anything. I just would I knew who he was, see him from afar, I read his stuff, interact on Twitter and whatnot. And I went up to him. I said, "Hey, Lucas, it's nice to meet ya." And he goes, "I remember you. You're Dawson." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a W. That's a W." He knows who I am. And Maya too, because we had played poker together last year, and he remembered my face. He's one of the goats I look up to. He's legit. Yeah, he's wild. Putting up some crazy P&L when he shorts Tiger for 200K and goes, "Kept it light today." Like, yeah, sure. He's wild. But he's a super good dude. Super genuine, super nice. He'd talk to anybody. He loves talking about food and travel and stuff. Have you ever met someone named Nikos? I know him. Not really on a first name basis, but he's a monster trader. He's in that whole group. He was part of the little what would you call it? Like the little video portion when Brian Lee got an award for like all of his Traders for a Cause contributions, and it's like Person of the Year award or something. Or was it? Did he get the Derek? No, he got the Derek Leon award. Zach from Traders for a Cause got the Person of the Year. But Brian Lee got the Derek Leon award, and Nikos was in that video. But yeah, he's good friends with a lot of the big traders. I think he's one of the best traders that Nate knows, and Lucas and stuff. They all speak highly of him. So in my books, if guys I trust say he's a good trader, then I believe him. I don't have to see P&L to know. But he's another one that kind of keeps it under wraps. He's made his bag. He's got more money than he knows what to do with, but he doesn't need to do much. They removed his interview, but I found it. Interview with who? With like Chat with Traders or something? Oh, really? I didn't know that they did one. It must have been from a while ago. Yeah, because he doesn't do stuff like that anymore. I'd be curious to see it. If you got a link, PM it to me on Twitter or something. I'd be interested to watch it. Sounds good. I just Googled it. Nikos in Investors Underground. It's pretty funny. He's been mentioned in a bunch of the interviews they've done. Back in 2014, the interview with Derek Leon. It's like we have a very young member, Nikos. He's 20 years old. He's made over 300 grand in 2014. He made six figures before the age of 20. He's the next multi-million-dollar kid. Crazy fact about Nikos, he also made $112,000 in the months of February 2015. Crazy. Oh, cool, cool. Alrighty, well, I think, do I just upload YouTube on... Yeah, sure, that works. I'm not going to share the link with anybody. I'm curious to hear some more of his story. He was at Traders for a Cause, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. And I just kind of saw him in passing. I didn't really talk to him much, but yeah, some closer trader friends and stuff, they spoke highly of him, so I think he's a legit trader. Like legit, not like he's real, like legit meaning like he's a monster. But yeah, I'd be interested if you uploaded it to YouTube unlisted. I'm not going to share it with anybody. I'll keep it. Just curious. But yeah, so I think we will wrap it up there. Thank you guys for stopping by. I'll probably hop in Investors Underground in the morning, pre-market, do some prep, see if anybody's around for broadcast. Otherwise, I'll hop on there if they need a hand. But yeah, as always, get in where you fit in, make some memories, and I'll see you guys in the room. Thanks. Peace.